Surrender. Uh, I'm hoping to do a second video tomorrow, which will be peace of mind and the only opponent that matters. But before we get started on my thoughts on spirituality, I do want to say this first. This past week, I posted on Facebook a quote by an Indian chief, Tecumseh, and it really caught me because he talked about how we need to respect each other's religions. So, obviously, when it comes to spirituality, for a lot of us, we're going to talk about religion, and I'm not going to go into, gospels or anything like that. But I think, regardless of your religion and your thought on religion, whether even if you have no religion, I think you can get something out of, what I have to say. At least I hope you do. So, let me start out by saying I always was a firm believer in the idea of mind, body, and spirit. And, over the course of the last 9 months, I had a lot of time on my hand because I was pretty much done with work for the most part. And it gave me a lot of times to think, because it's the one thing, thinking doesn't hurt you. When you have cancer, your mind's good. So it gave me a lot of time to think and theorize and prophesize and everything else. So, with mind, body, and spirit, I guess the ideal is 100%. And maybe 33 and a third of each, mind, body, spirit. For me, because my body has become so broken and I can barely do anything manual, things that I enjoy doing, even yard work. You don't realize how much you miss it until you can't do it. But my body might be at 10%, 20%. I don't know. But because my body was broken, I feel like my mind and my spirit, increased. Uh, so I might be at like 10 and 45, 45 to be honest with you, because my spirituality is definitely growing and my mind is definitely growing too, in the sense that I can, have a different perspective. So, for that being said, I think it's important that we all try to get to 100% because there's definitely people who have broken bodies, broken minds, broken spirits, and they're not at 100%. And I think that's why I do find happiness and I do find peace, is the sense that I'm still operating at 100%, even though, my body might not be at optimal, my spirit and mind have taken over. So as far as my spirituality, I mean, it's something that I think I always sought out. I didn't always have, but I sought it. And, as a young child, I had an uncle who would pick me up for Sunday school, and he'd always have these little bag M&Ms he'd give me, and I don't know if it was the M&Ms or going to Sunday school, but I really enjoyed going and learning about God. And then as I got a little older, I got, I guess I got, it was too cool to go, so I sort of stopped going to Sunday school. But I did end up going to, 3 years of catechetical at St. Mark's Church and Lutheran Church in Pennsburg, and I enjoyed that. I got back into it a little bit, in my early high school years, and I enjoyed learning about, the Bible and such. I also remember laying in my little pool back in like 1972 with my Mark Spitz red, white, and blue Speedos, which really I didn't have a body for and never did. But I remember laying in the pool on my inner tube in the middle of the night, and or not in the middle of the night, but when it got dark, and looking up at the stars, and I always thought, that's heaven, and there's people up there, and I always thought that, maybe my grandfather Hirsch, who I never met, he died when my mom was very young. I'm like, that's where he's at. And so I had this sense of heaven and the sense that heaven's a beautiful place. Uh, After I got out of college, I met my wonderful wife Ann, who grew up in a very strong traditional Catholic family. And one of our first dates was New Year's Eve, 1990, going into 91. And she told me that before she goes, she had to go to church. And I'm like, talking about it's New Year's Eve. You don't go to church. You go out and booze it up, right? And but she said, oh, it's a holy day of obligation. So probably trying to impress her, I went along to church. I think it was our first time going to church together, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. Uh, I always liked doing new experiences, so it was pretty cool. But at any rate, that sort of got me started. Her and I, we just hit it off, and I knew that I was going to marry her, and so I started going to church with her, and sometimes I'd complain, or sometimes I'd make comments. Oh, it's the same thing over and over again, because two readings, the gospel, the homily, and she would talk about the Eucharist and receiving Jesus, and to me that was a little bit different than what I was used to, because we didn't have communion every week in the Lutheran Church. It wasn't the same. It wasn't actual what we believed was the body of Christ. We thought it was a symbol, more or less, I guess, in the Lutheran Church. But it was a good experience. And then I eventually, obviously, I met her family, and her mother was just an incredible woman who I didn't quite understand. Honestly, she scared me a bit, because she was at Mass every morning, and she eventually got cancer, and her faith was unbelievable, and it had a major impact on me, especially later in life. She never complained. She was willing to accept God's will. So, eventually she passed away. But my other experience, and I use her as a hero in my fight with cancer. My other hero is a lady who lived in my neighborhood when I grew up. Her name was Octavia Stahl. And she had breast cancer back in the 70s, and I was, obviously, 10, 11 years old, and to see everything that she went through, again, she never complained. Breast cancer back then wasn't like it is today. Fortunately, today, there's an excellent cure rate, but back then it was, a lot of surgeries, a lot of just mutilating the bodies, really. And it was rough to see, even as a 10-year-old. I knew what she was going through, but again, never complained. Always, put on a happy face, and so, she made a major impact. And they're the two people that I really, really hope that when my time comes, I get to go to heaven, and I know I'm going to meet them, that I get to see him again, thank him, spend some time with him. But next, I guess, major event in my life is, as far as spirituality, was I decided to, after some contemplation, I was thinking about going back to the Lutheran Church. But I decided, I wanted to go to church with my family. So my son was about 5, and I went through the RCI program in the Catholic Church. And it was just, for me, it completed everything. Simply because I learned about what the Catholics call sacred tradition, which is the period of time between when Jesus lived and the Bible was written. And it brought together everything for me. I had some doubts prior to that, because I knew the Bible was written, several hundred years after Jesus lived. But the whole idea of Peter and all the popes from Peter on up, it sort of put the human link between when God lived and the Bible was written. And I came out of that, and I continued to go to church every Sunday, but I was praying, and it wasn't really till I got cancer that I was able to sit down and really focus on prayer. And I learned how to do intercessions. I learned the rosary. It has all helped me. And it has given me spiritual peace. It's just a fabulous thing for me. And I'm at a point now where I know the time I have left isn't probably too long. So I've come to learn how to surrender. And surrendering isn't surrendering to my cancer. Because like through Team Krause, shirt here, we're going to continue to fight even when I'm gone. We're going to continue to fight. We're in there. We're raising money right now for a couple of families, and things are going well, and it's a nice grassroots effort. I'm really proud of everyone. But, so that we're not surrendering, but I'm surrendering to the will of Christ. I am letting Christ take over and making a determination, when it's my time. Then I'm not worried. I'm not going to worry about it because I'm letting Him decide. And, my wife and I say a little prayer every night, oh Jesus, I surrender to you. Take care of everything. And that's what we're doing. So it gives me a great amount of spiritual peace, a tremendous amount, because I feel that I have nothing to worry about. To me, heaven is a beautiful place. I know I'm going. And sometimes when people, tell me, oh, you're not going to die, you're going to pull through this, and I'm like, you know what? It's not like I want to die. I'll take a miracle any day. I'll take a miracle. But if a miracle means I have to live with my body at 10%, that's going to be difficult to accept because for the most part, I spend all my time either in my bed or on the couch in my living room. And I'm comfortable, but I'm not living. I'm not living to what I want to do. Last night I went to my son's baseball game and I actually got sick on the way there. Fortunately, we were prepared because we knew it might happen. And I sat in the car during the game. I was able to watch the game from the car. Not a great view, but at least a view. And after an hour, I said to my wife, I got to go home. I'm tired. My body is just tired. I came home and I went to bed. And, but luckily, my spirituality and my peace of mind, which I'll talk about tomorrow, took over. And I feel fine. But had my spirit been broken and my mind been broken, plus my body, that's why some people have trouble, have difficulty, with any disease or just with their life. So I guess my advice to anyone watching the video is, even if you're feeling fine, work on that body, mind, and spirit. Try to get them all strong. Try to get them all at 100%. And also, surrender to God. I mean, that's something I wish I would have learned a little earlier. Or surrender to whoever you believe in or whatever you believe. And really by surrendering to God, you're basically saying, God, I can take care of some things, but I'm going to let the rest up to you. I can't control everything. And when you surrender, it gives you a peace that you have where